Hello everyone and welcome back to the Angels franchise. It is time for the offseason. If you missed it, we did do a bit of a season recap at the end of the previous episode. So if you want to see the season recap, go to that episode. Watch about the last probably 20-ish minutes or so. We go through the postseason and we go through the stats. But now we're just going to get straight into the offseason. Time to take a look at our staff and if we want to make any further changes. But to be honest, I'm pretty happy with our staff. They're all locked up, so we don't have to worry about that. And now we've got free agent negotiations. Jose Quijada is up to an 80 overall. The walk per 9 is improving. He got plus 11 to K per 9 this season. And he honestly had a really good year. One of the best of his career. 2.71 ERA, 1.37 whip. Definitely much improved from what he had done in the previous season. And he pitched about 20 more innings. So really good from Quijada. I really would like to bring him back. I do not want to give him a qualifying offer though. I'd like to just lock him up for a few more years, maybe 3 years, and I would do that $6.5 million that he is asking for. So we'll go 19.5 million for Jose Quijada. I think he is worthwhile to bring back. Hard to find really good lefties, and he, I think, is one of those. Miguel Castro was maybe the biggest disappointment that we got from free agency last season. He was coming off a great year with Houston and just wasn't great for us. I mean, he wasn't bad either, but now we're to the point where we've got some bullpen arms, I think, ready to come up from the farm system. I don't think we need Castro. He's not asking for a ton of money, only $4.5 million, but I think we're going to let him walk. He just did not do enough to impress me this season. And of course, Anthony Rendon, I think we're absolutely letting walk, although he only wants 1.5 million for the year. And he's really not that bad despite now being 36. Am I crazy, or is 1.5 million for a player of his caliber kind of worth it? You know what? This is stupid. I'm sending him that offer. I think he is worth 1.5 million for a year. This is a player where he's just going to hang out at AAA probably. And if any type of injuries happen, like they did this last season, he can come up and just be a decent bat for us. I actually don't hate that for the cheap price that he's asking for. That's probably unrealistically reasonable from Anthony Rendon. And I simmed only a day. It looks like Rendon has already accepted. Quijada is still considering, and we are now to free agency. Wow, and the Red Sox failed to get a deal done with Garrett Crochet, so he is just available, as is Tarek Skubal. Jazz Chisholm is available. Could be a fun one. Freddie Peralta, another really good starting pitcher, is available. Nico Horner is available. Could be an interesting second baseman to snag. He saw some regression this year. Wow, really not a good year from Nico Horner, only batting a 238. I would absolutely kill to get Tarek Skubal onto this team. Crochet would be a really fun one as well. They're obviously going to want a ton of money. 41.4 million a year for Crochet, 39.1 for Skubal. So let's talk about this roster going into the next season. So Neto obviously is the shortstop. Trout is obviously the DH. Those are pretty much locked up. Positions that I think we need a kind of new starter at. Second base, Nicky Lopez, I just was not impressed with. And there's really nobody I think that could take over. Arias being the closest, but not really capable of being on any type of playoff caliber team. There's of course Willie Castro, who could play second if we want to find a third baseman instead. And then honestly, if we want to find one just pretty solid outfielder, and then DeLauder would take over the other outfield spot as a starter. That is kind of my ideal world, although I wouldn't also mind waiting another year on DeLauder. That doesn't hurt me too much. Dalton Varsho is available as a center fielder, and he's kind of that really good fielder that I like. He's maybe a little slower than I would want. He is 30. He's only 5'8". Pretty good contact against lefties, but definitely more of just a lefty hitter. There's Cody Bellinger starting to regress a bit. He's now 31, but he's a solid player. Do we bring back Taylor Ward? He did not re-sign, so he is now just a free agent. Do we bring in a big-time power bat like a Rhys Hoskins? I really would love to bring in another star player, and a second baseman makes a lot of sense. There's really not a ton of guys available in terms of third baseman. There is Alec Bohm. There's Ha-Sung Kim. He's a really impressive player. Look at the plus 12 he got to contact against lefties this season. Chisholm is honestly really fun, and obviously against righties, he is an excellent hitter, and he's not like a slouch against lefties, but he's not quite as good. But hey, if we're going to try to win a World Series with Trout still on the team, then maybe it does make sense to bring Jazz in. And I mean, he could play center field for us if we wanted him to. If we talk about who's going to start for the team next season, I think these top 3 guys are really the most obvious ones. that it's like, yes, they're probably going to be starters. There's Nicholas Diamond, obviously the rookie, but I don't want to start him immediately. I think at this point in Lucchese's career, he was a good Rule 5 pickup, but I don't really know that I want to start him. Detmers, Silseth, they both kind of make sense to maybe be starters. Silseth, though, continues to just perform poorly. So what if we brought in Tarik Skubal and he becomes the ace of the team? Then it's Soriano, Bayo, Means, and Detmers. I want to make a huge splash. I love Tarik Skubal's game, but is it more worth it to get Crochet, who is a few years younger? The only thing I don't like about Crochet is that lack of stamina. So screw it. I'm going after Tarik Skubal. Unfortunately, our team is still considered long shots, which decreases his motivation. I find that really unfortunate. I don't think we're long shots. I think that we very clearly have the building blocks to be a team that could contend in the postseason, and we just need a couple of guys to fill those gaps, like a Tarik Skubal, for example. We are, at the very least, just going to see how interested Jazz Chisholm is. So, Tarik Skubal, Jazz Chisholm. I want to make some splashes this year. Hopefully, we can do just that. I do not want it to come down to having to just settle for a second baseman like we did last season. So I quickly went through and renewed anyone's contract that I felt like basically all of these guys are just costing way too much money to be as bad as they are. And it just didn't feel necessary to renew their contracts. Feels a little bit bad for David Calabrese, but it is what it is. Bro is basically never going to see the field for us. We also offered salary arbitration to everyone, and Ben Joyce has been offered a sort of longer term contract, $40 million over 5 years. I figure that is not a bad deal at all for Ben Joyce. So now we're sorting by players who are Rule 5 eligible and deciding if we want to add them to the 40-man. And things are starting to get a little bit tricky. So like Samuel Aldeguerri here is a pretty decent player. He's a 70 overall. He's Rule 5 eligible. There is probably a team that would pick him up. Do we want to add him to the 40-man? Well, we only have 4 slots left. So definitely going to have to be a little bit more careful. Calabrese, I'm kind of just letting walk. So there's nobody I'm like super concerned about a little bit further down this Rule 5 eligible board. So Samuel, I am going to add to the 40-man. I do think that he would get taken. And I think the same could honestly be said about really any of these top 4 guys. So I'm also going to add Walbert Urena to the 40-man. And then Mason Erla, he's 29. I think if a team wants him, they can have him. I'm not adding him to the 40-man. And then the rest of the Rule 5 eligible guys, I just don't think I'm that worried about. Yeah, there's basically nobody else that is Rule 5 eligible that I have to be that concerned about. So I'm pretty happy with that. Also going to check the 40-man. Is there anyone that I maybe want to remove? Like Jake Fox probably does not need to be on the 40-man. I really don't think he would get stolen. I like him quite a bit as a prospect. The utility, see potential 24. Like I wouldn't want to see him get snagged, but I also wouldn't be absolutely devastated if he did. So I'm going to remove him from the 40-man. He's going to have to pass through waivers, but I think he probably will. But I do need to make sure I have some 40-man spots open for free agents. So like Anthony Rendon, I know we just re-signed him, but I'm going to remove him from the 40-man. I know he's going to have to pass through waivers, but that's totally fine with me. To kick off the offseason, the Tigers have acquired Devin Williams from the Yankees. In return, the Yankees get Owen Hall, a C potential starting pitcher, and a third baseman, Andy Ibanez. This is a horrible trade for the Yankees, I'm not going to lie. So Skubal's actually pretty interested. 42% is higher than I was anticipating. Chisholm, on the other hand, really does not want to be an Angel, it appears. Only 15% motivation to sign. I could keep him on the board, keep gaining motivation boosts, but it feels like a little bit of a waste. I will just start to kind of explore other players at this point, like Hassan Kim maybe, if he might be a little bit more interested, could also be a really good player for us. There's also Nico Horner who is available, but the main guy that we want to get is Tarik Skubal. And in fact, to ensure that we are getting as much motivation on him as possible, we'll double up on team needs for him. So he's getting 9% per week, meaning that we can offer him a contract as early as next week, hopefully, assuming he doesn't get one this week. But unfortunately, some team has already offered him a contract, and it's really not looking good that we're going to be able to get Skubal. They were able to place the first competitive offer, which actually means we lose motivation. And so in order to get him to sign, we'd have to get really lucky or just offer him the most absurd contract you'll ever see. And $48 million per year is as high as I can go to begin with. It actually just tops out right here at $48.8 million. and I don't really want to spend that much. So we're just going to hope we get lucky. I guess I'll go to 40.66 and we'll send that contract. It's looking like though he's going to sign with a different team. Really unfortunate. Would have loved to have gotten a guy like Scooble, but it is what it is, unless maybe we get lucky here. No, it is the phone symbol. That means he's given us a call, let us know he's signing with the Mets. That's really unfortunate. And unfortunately, our backup plan for Chisholm, or at least one of them, Nico Horner, has already made his decision. He's signing with Minnesota. Jesus Luzardo is signing with the Royals. Garrett Crochet is a Ranger. Can the Rangers get any better? 50% motivation to sign for Ha-Sung Kim, by the way. He would probably play third base for us, and then Castro could slide to second. So he's actually quite interested, but another team has sent him an offer already. But we can give him an offer as well. 20.5 million is a lot per year, but he's a very, very capable player. A really, really good player. 5 years is quite a bit also. I would prefer more like 4 years, but I also don't want to lose motivation. So we're going to go up to 5 years, 23 million per year. Still leaves us with a good amount of budget, and we're at 57%. So there's a good chance that Kim is going to sign with us. Here's his contract decision. And no, he is headed elsewhere. Man, we are just the most unlucky free agent team there is. He's headed to Cleveland. So now we've just got a completely empty board, and we've got really nobody that we're after. We could get like a Freddie Peralta. I would have preferred a lefty like a Scooble, but Peralta is still really good. Peralta is far and away the best still available pitcher. He wants 28.3 million per year. I mean, we'll add him to the board, see if we can get him motivated to sign. Do we bring Chisholm back in? His percentage of interest was just so bad. Like, we can't offer anything until they're at least 50%. So I just don't think it makes sense to have Chisholm there. But it also could make sense if he holds out for a long time. He'd be gaining motivation for us every single week. And it would be really, really fun to get a player like Jazz Chisholm, especially now that the other guys I was really eyeing to take over second base are gone. There's still Brandon Lau, or is it Lowe? I know one of them is Lau, one of them's Lowe. He's really good, but he is also 32. Not the best fielder, strong arm, not that big of a deal because he would play second base most likely anyway. It is an accurate arm. He's not particularly fast, but he does bring a good amount of power and contact. So maybe we look at him and see what his interests are. Oh, and I did not even see that Pete Alonso is available as well. 87 overall, big time power bat, also 32. 2 years, 12.8 million a year is incredibly reasonable though for a guy of his caliber. Looks like his power numbers were pretty down last year, but still incredible power against righties and lefties, something that we're honestly really lacking. But then what does that mean for Nolan Shawnuel if we were to get Alonso? Because it's not like Alonso could DH. He'd have to play at first because Trout needs to DH. Shawnuel can only play first. So does he just become a backup? Do we send him down to the minors to develop more at the age of 24, 25? Pete Alonso is a type of player that I really feel like we are lacking on this team. Second base or third base is much more of a need, that's for sure. But I am going to add him to the board just to see his level of motivation after one more week. Unfortunately, Freddie Peralta is just not interested at all in signing with us. Man, I don't know if we're going to be able to land a solid starting pitcher. I was looking for like a true ace. That's why I really wanted Scooble. Unfortunately, not going to happen. Freddie Peralta, I mean, we'll offer the contract again. Worst he can say is no, I guess. 30% chance still, or at least that's his motivation to sign. I don't know what that means in terms of his actual likelihood to sign, but it's almost certainly not going to happen. And yep, there's the phone giving us the call. Breaking our hearts once again as he heads back to the Brewers. And now Brandon is also signing somewhere, and the motivation is just not there again. Nobody wants to play for the Angels. The motivation to sign is just so low for everyone. I mean, Scooble was the highest one, but even he wasn't over 50%, meaning that we would have had to wait a week to offer him anything, and other teams can just get offers out sooner. It's really hard to get anyone to come play for the Angels. Again, I will offer the contract. Worst he can say is no. I'm not going to go crazy high and make some type of stupid decision, but we'll see if he does, for whatever reason, sign with us. No, phone call again, and he goes to Tampa. The good news here though is that Pete Alonso is very motivated to sign. And I say very motivated in terms of Angels because obviously this is the first guy we've seen over 50% this whole time. This feels like such an odd signing. It's not a need, but it most definitely improves the team, and he's not that expensive. I'm going to offer Pete Alonso what I think is a pretty competitive contract, and hopefully that gives us a motivation boost. We're going to go up to about $13.5 million over the next 2 years. He'll be a significant power bat for us. I also think that opens the opportunity to potentially trade Nolan Schanuel after he saw his potential dip into the C's. And then I've also added Chisholm back in and Bieber, and we're going to see what motivation Bieber has, and then we're going to, I guess, just continue to boost Chisholm for now. So now we'll start advancing again, and a trade has been made. The Athletics acquire Edwin Diaz, trading to the Mets JT Ginn and Miles Naylor. Pete Alonso is making his contract decision, and he does sign with the Angels. So that is a huge power bat we have now added to the team. But now that presents the question, what in the world do we do with Nolan Schanuel? I think maybe we deal him this offseason. Is that weird? Look, I know he's only 25, but that potential dropping to a C is super concerning. I mean, he's going to be a good player, don't get me wrong. And he's plenty good right now, and he's coming off of a good season. But with Pete Alonso joining the team, at least for the next 2 years, you don't really need Nolan Schanuel as much. But we could also keep him just as a depth piece. He's not costing us a ton of money. He's still got 1 more year of team control after these next 2 years of $3.5 million. He's a good hitter against righties. We've now put ourselves in a pretty interesting predicament. It's definitely a weird pickup getting Alonso. I don't know how I feel about it completely. So Shane Bieber is actually quite interested in joining the Angels as well. So this would be our ace. It's another righty pitcher, which is something I'm not super thrilled about, but we're not going to complain about getting an 86 overall guy. And Jazz is up to 25%. I don't know if other teams have offered him just yet. We're immediately going to make an offer to Shane Bieber, however. We're going to go to an even 60%, 4 years, $20.6 million to Shane Bieber. And we've made the first competitive offer, so we get a 5% motivation boost, jumping him to a 64%. Contract decision incoming. I don't know that this is a great sign that we're seeing an animation. The pen comes out though. Somebody has signed with us, and I think you know what that means. Shane Bieber is an Angel. We have found our ace for probably the next 4 seasons, and he is going to make this starting rotation even stronger. And now we're on to the draft lottery. So we have a 1.4% chance for the number 1 pick. Currently, we're looking at picking 11th, and we will stay at 11th, but the Red Sox move up 5 to get to number 2, and the White Sox move up 3 to go to number 1, and the Rockies drop 3 to go to number 4. So a poverty franchise stays poverty. Rockies drop to 4, but we stay at 11. So not the best pick coming up next season. Free agent opportunity. Jorge Polanco really would like to sign with us. All things considered, he's not a bad player, but he is 33. $6.8 million a year is pretty reasonable. He is such a horrible fielder though. This feels like going back to Rengifo after losing Rengifo a year ago. I'm just going to say not interested for now. I do still have Chisholm on the board, and he's up to 44% interest. Like, we're only a week away from being able to send him an offer. And then I do have Dalton Varsho here as well. I do think adding somebody to the outfield is probably a good idea. And Varsho is that really good fielder that I like to have in center. I wish he was just a little bit faster, but I'll take what I can get. Well, Varsho is getting an offer from the Mets, the Astros, and the Marlins. So I'll offer him the contract. 19.4 million per year is pretty hefty, but he's almost certainly not going to sign with the Angels. And he is a Met. So Varsho headed to the Mets. But on the bright side, we are now able to offer Jazz Chisholm a contract. And this would be an absolutely enormous signing for the team. Really good fielder that can play third or second or even center field for us. And he is a good bat. He's good against lefties. He's great against righties. righties with decent vision, discipline, and clutch, and he's pretty durable as well. So we are going to offer Jazz a contract, and we're going to offer him 22.67. That gets him to 55%. And that leaves us with a little bit of budget to get some role players potentially as well. 7 years though, that's a lot. He'll be 36. I'm going to go 6 years, 22.67 million. And we are the first competitive offer for Jazz Chisholm. So we get a 5% boost. And now we can kind of start looking at other pieces. If we manage to land Chisholm, I actually think we're a very well-balanced roster. So now let's start advancing again. And it's a contract decision for Jazz Chisholm. Is he going to be an Angel? Biggest free agent in the series. No way, he turns us down. Okay, but he hasn't signed with anybody else yet. He says, in the meantime, good luck trying to rebuild my motivation. So maybe he truly won't accept anything unless it's 7 years. I have added Kevin Newman to the board. If worse comes to worse, I think we can bring him back in and he would be a better starter than Nicky Lopez for certain. But I want Jazz. We can offer him again. I guess I will go with the 7 years that he wanted. That would put him into his age 36 season. So he's going to be nice and old. We're just going to give him exactly what he wants. 21.8 for 7 seasons. Stamp and send. And now we advance some more. Contract decision time for Jazz. Maybe this is the time that he signs with the Angels. It's once again a phone. Please don't sign with somebody else. No way. They gave him 9 years, 24.46, and we lose out on Jazz to the Cubs. I can't believe this. We're about to go crawling back to Kevin Newman. Kevin Newman, he's really not a bad player. Like, as annoying as it is to come crawling back to Kevin Newman like this, he really isn't bad. And I can't believe we don't land Jazz there. I am making a trade with the Colorado Rockies. I am going to be acquiring third baseman Ryan McMahon, who is a great fielder. Not as good of a bat as he once was, but still quite good, and definitely makes our infield way better. I'm going to be honest, the Rockies have been doing a terrible job with this team. Their highest overall player is Ezekiel Tovar, and then Ryan McMahon at the 82. They need help so bad in terms of prospects. Like, they just got Lee Pike, but they're years away, really, from being capable of contending with this roster that they've got. And so the more they can get in terms of prospects, the better. So we're sending them third baseman B potential Brian Julio. I believe that potential is in the high 80s. So he has potential to be a really pretty good player. He plays third base, he plays first, he's a corner infielder. And then we're also going to be parting ways with our first draft pick in the series. That's Kevin Vasquez. He has high C potential, currently at 57. So these guys are a long ways out from being able to help at the major league level. But the Rockies are probably at least 3 seasons away from rebuilding this team to contend with anything. It's gotten really, really bad, and they need to get rid of McMahon because he's in the final year of his contract. So we're going to take him off of their hands. We're going to try to contend this coming year with McMahon, and then we might ourselves actually deal him at the deadline if it comes down to it. And they're interested in this deal. They want the prospects. We're going to make it happen. And to be honest, that means we probably don't need to get Kevin Newman, but we definitely could bring him in to play on the bench still. The roster is definitely looking a little weird. Pete Alonso being new to the team and probably taking over everyday first base from Nolan Shanuel, who now just becomes really expendable. At second base, I'm thinking that Willie Castro is just going to slide over to there. He'll start playing second base this season. We'll have Ryan McMahon play at third. Of course, Neto will play short. My only real concern now is our outfield doesn't look the best. Trout, of course, being the DH. DeLauder, I'd like to play in the outfield. Adele, of course, will play in the outfield. And then there's like Sam Hilliard. So I think most likely what I'm going to end up doing is maybe trading Shanuel or Noda, whatever a team is more interested in, and getting some type of outfielder, preferably one a bit younger than Hilliard, who is 33. I ultimately decided not to sign Kevin Newman with the Ryan McMahon trade. It just really wasn't needed anymore. I prefer McMahon and Castro being starters, and I don't really want to pay $7.5 million for a guy who's just going to come off the bench. Kevin Newman, he's a pretty good player. He's headed to Seattle, which is a little unfortunate. We're going to see a lot of him. So considering I needed outfield help, I did add Nick Castellanos to my big board. He wanted 1 year, $9 million. And I figured for a bat like his, as consistent as his is, that felt pretty worth it for a bit of a bridge year. A year where we are hopefully going to keep Trout healthy and make a playoff push. Well, we're now in a now or never situation. Because it's 1 year, I would be willing to go up to 10 million just for this one season. It's also great trade bait if the season's not going the way we want. He, of course, can only play in right field, so that's just where we're going to have to put him. He's not a great fielder, but he's a lot more durable than Trout, obviously. It's not the most ideal thing. I'll go 9.6. I'm really not going to be that heartbroken if we can't get him. And he does sign with the Mariners. Why are the Mariners always stealing players from us? It's not that big of a deal. I think we can find somebody probably a little bit better through a trade involving Nolan Shonewell. And we are officially to the end of the offseason. Tomorrow's the last day to renew contracts. We have renewed for everyone we want to, and we are to spring training. So now begs the question, what in the world do we do with this roster? So in an attempt to find an additional outfielder for this team, I have been looking at teams that need first baseman, because whether we want to trade Noda, whether we want to trade Shonewell, that is a first baseman. So we need a team that needs a first baseman. In my searches, the Baltimore Orioles were the most obvious team by a mile. Their best first baseman is a 65 overall D potential guy, and then they do have an A potential Edgar Aparicio, but he is a couple years away from really being able to contribute at a high level in the majors. So this is absolutely a team that I've mentioned in the past is ready to compete right now. They have the roster to compete right now. They've got very good players at basically every position, and they need a first baseman. Well, in sometime last season, they traded for Jack Sawinski and have just kind of forgotten about Heston Kierstad, who I think is the guy I'm going to go after. He's not quite the fielder I'd want him to be, but he's a very balanced bat and is more than serviceable as a corner outfielder. So this is going to be the trade. And some of you might be kind of bummed by this. Nolan Shonewell just has not amounted to much with the Angels. That dip into C potential has just really hurt his stock in my eyes, where he's already quite close to the best he's going to get, and he is now 25. And the player they want to go along with Shonewell is Randy DeJesus, a right fielder who is 22 years old. And I think that this is a pretty even trade, and we are going to make that happen. So now Heston will probably move to left field, Adele will play in right, and Chase DeLauder will play center. And that is my plan for the outfield for this coming season. So heading into year number 3, here is the tentative starting lineup. Billy Castro will play second, Trout will DH, and I do still have to change it so that he does not have stealing or base running aggressiveness. He's down to an 86 overall, by the way. Joe Adele will bat third. I think he earned that position from last season, played much better out of that spot than many others. Pete Alonso will be fourth. Ryan McMahon, the new third baseman, will be fifth. Logan O'Hoppe, sixth. Neto, 7. Kierstad, 8. And DeLauder, 9. And then mostly the same with lefties, but Neto jumps up to the 1 because he has some of the highest contact against lefties. This is mostly going to stay the same. Some of it could change slightly depending on the performances of guys during spring training. But for now, that's what you can expect. And then for the pitching rotation, Shane Bieber is the #1 guy for the next couple of seasons. In fact, the next 4 seasons is how long we have him. And then it's Jose Soriano, John Means, Brian Bayo, and Reed Detmers. And then the bullpen is kind of up for grabs. Jack Kahanowicz has kind of just lost his spot in the rotation despite back-to-back very good years. We'll see how he pitches during spring training. I'll make sure he gets a good amount of reps. But anyway, that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. It was kind of a crazy off season. A lot has changed for this Angels team going into year number 3. I'm hoping we can make a playoff push with Trout. Ideally, we can keep him healthy and make that playoff push. As always, shout out to the channel members. If you want to become a channel member, you can do so by hitting the join button down below for as low as $1 per month. And if you find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't already subscribed, go ahead and hit that sub button for me. It does help me out a lot. And I will see you guys in the next episode where we'll get started in year number 3.